Hey everybody, CJ Korryn here. First of all, I want to thank you for watching this recording of my author workshop. In this workshop, I talked about the pros and cons of traditional publishing, of self-publishing, which is also known as indie publishing, and of hybrid publishing. I also talked a little bit about hints, tips, and etc. The last thing I talked about were myths about traditional publishing and myths about indie publishing. You might notice while you are watching the video that I mentioned several times about some resources that I told the group. I have all those resources on my Publishing Helps tab. In the Publishing Help tabs, you will find PDFs of pretty much a breakdown of what I talked about. You can find further reading on the subjects in the websites that I got the information from. So I posted my resources on my web page where you can just go and there's a lot more information that you can read there. I have the hints and tips that I mentioned in the video, and I have I added a lot of online resources. So the podcasts and the YouTube channels that I mentioned in the workshop are posted on that page, so you can just click on the icon and it will send you right to the podcast or the YouTube videos, and some other extremely helpful online resources such as ReadZ, which I mentioned in the video. So I encourage you, go ahead and check out those resources anytime, before the video, in the middle of the video, after the video, and check them out. I think they will be extremely helpful for anyone who is even thinking about trying to make it as a full-time author. So let's just get into watching the workshop. First thing I'm going to talk about is publishing options and their pros and cons. So the first one I'm going to talk about is traditional publishing. If you don't know what that is, that's basically been around pretty much since books. You query basically, you guys know what query letters are? It's a format you're selling your story to an agent, and then the agent, if he likes it, he'll represent you, or she will represent you, and they will try to get a publisher to sign you, right? So that's what query letter is. So the traditional publisher will do everything. Like, you don't have to pretty much throw even a cent down. After you get the contract, they will start it up, right? So some pros to that is, of course, exposure. Right? You get into bookstores because there's now only three of them. The big three used to be big five like 10 years ago. Now it's only the big three. You get into bookstores pretty easily. You often get an advance. So basically, they'll give you like $5,000 or whatever it is. But you don't get your money until after that advance is paid back to them. So after you sell $5,000 worth of your book.
And how do you pay for the query up front? Do you have to pay, or do you wait till something happens? Or?
You don't pay anything with traditional. Well, let me rephrase that. The agent will take a cut of whatever.
Is it pretty much standard?
For traditional publishing, yeah, it's standard. The agent takes a cut, the publisher takes a cut, and then whoever else is involved in it takes a cut, and then you get your.
And you got it because you did it for fun, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's pretty. I don't prefer traditional, but but if you don't want to pay for all the stuff, then they're great because they pay for the editing. They have professional editors that do it. They will get with you, like, okay, your story here is missing something here. Let's go back and fix this part, right? And then kind of an upside is in marketing, but marketing now with all the social media, even traditional authors have to do a lot of marketing. So that's like kind of in the middle of pro and con. Because pro, they do they'll market to bookstores, they'll set up book signings for you, stuff like that. But Facebook, all that stuff, you still got to do all your marketing there. some cons. You got about 6 to 18 months before it even gets published. And I've been, some of the podcasts that I listen to, they say that some publishers will only publish your book, one author, let me rephrase that. If you sign with them, they'll only publish one of your books a year. So if you have 3 books already ready, they won't, do it for another 12 months. Yes?
Do you have to be exclusive to that publisher?
Yeah. They buy your rights.
Mm-hmm.
So you have no rights after that. You sell them your stuff for 2, 5, 10, 15 years. And a lot of these podcasts that are on my website, they'll talk about that. Great stuff. I mean, it's hours and hours of just stuff you need to absorb if you want to be serious about writing, I think. Yeah, and then of course they have the power. This thing that really pulled me back from when I discovered indie publishing. They have all the power, so they might buy their. And I've heard, and again, this is on one of the podcasts. You're writing a fantasy, and say like Lord of the Rings. That's huge, right? They have another author that's their #1 seller, and they get your book. They may never actually publish it. They might buy the rights and sit on it because they don't want to compete with their top selling author. And that's happened before. And they don't really have very effective marketing. That's another con. With most traditional publishers, you get paid twice a year. So that's like a check every 6 months for whatever. After if you got an advance, after you pay that advance, might be like 4 years later, then you start getting your 2 paychecks a year. And then royalty rates, that's a big one. There is the big issue years ago, people trying to get publishers, they get less money and the authors get more money. So royalty rates are pretty low. Traditional publishing is very hard to break into. And I say that, I have some personal experience with that as well. Most of my fiction is Christian fiction, and in that Christian fiction, it's short stories. Within the short stories, it's mostly Bible stories rewritten in Christian fiction format. So a healing of the leper, right? Rather than just what happened, you get the emotions and characterization. So my genre is a pretty small, or my you say that the reader are pretty small. So a traditional publisher would probably not want to sign me because they don't know if they'll make their money back from it. And the last con that I have down here is you do not get to be involved in publication. Right? Now, I've never gone through traditional. I'm getting all this from some websites, and I have all my resources on that website that you go and they get in so much more detail. But even the videos will tell you that basically they tell you to do something. You need to, they don't like the cover that you spent hours creating, or a couple $100 paying somebody to create your cover. That we don't like this, we're going to make our own. You don't have a choice, right? Because they bought your rights, and then self-publishing, and that's or what's called indie. A lot of us like to call it indie author, independent publishing, indie authors. That's what I am. My big reason for that is I get more free control. But I'm jumping ahead. So some pros with this is you get paid monthly. So you got Amazon, you got Barnes & Noble, all these online stores that you upload your books according to the specifications, and they pay you monthly. Now, there is a 3-month wait, so if I sell a book in January, it's not until March that I get paid for January sales, right? But I get paid every month, so that's good.
Like is it an ebook or what?
Yeah, ebooks. Yeah. Oh, well, also, and if you use that platform like Amazon to sell softback or hardback, same thing. you make an account, you can see your sales, and they break it down for you. So yeah, whatever books you sell with them, they'll pay you 3 months later, basically.
What's their percentage? Amazon?
I'm not sure. I did not look at that, but I know there's 2 percentages you get if you do what's called Katie. I think it's okay, I'm not going to try to remember, but there's 2 options. You got, I think, the 55% royalty, and I think it's like the 75% royalty that you get. But the 75%, I believe, is you are exclusive to Amazon, right? So you can't sell anywhere else. Now, if you have a print book and an ebook, and you want to go specifically exclusive on ebook to Amazon, you can do that, and you can sell the print book in every why. It's called why you sell to other bookstores, right? And you can do that online too. It's, you sell print copies online, so it's usually print on demand, like 5 books that month are sold, and then they print 5 books and send it out, right? So you get paid monthly. Another pro is you control the price, right? Traditional publishers, they'll set a price, right? I set my prices, whatever, and I just go back and I change them, if for whatever reason. Like I know recently, Amazon and I published through Ingram Spark as well, because they distribute to a lot of the bookstores. They all raised their prices on print books, like our price for printing books. So I had to go in there and raise my price so I wouldn't get a negative, I don't know what you call it.
Do they
Deficit.
handle audiobooks also?
I'm sorry?
Do they handle audiobooks?
Amazon does. Ingram Spark, I don't think they do, but I go through, what is it?
Who hires the voiceover for that? I mean, is that in your contract? They hire someone to read the book and
Yeah, so Findaway Voices, that's the audio company that I go through, and they distribute to a lot of the audio books as well. With that company, basically, I start my process, I upload my manuscripts. It'll start with, you can scroll through, say readers that they prefer to read sci-fi. So you put your sci-fi book in, and it comes up with like dozens or hundreds of audio people, or audio readers, and you just click on their samples, and if you don't like how the voice is or all this stuff, then you just discard them and you save, and
can you get a job doing that?
you can, yeah.
Maybe you can do that on the side.
Yeah, if you have good equipment, good sound equipment. I did that, but my stuff's not that great. But yeah, so I have 2 accounts at Findaway. One is an author, one is an audio person. So control the price. The good thing without self-publishing, I've heard of authors that publish monthly, a new book monthly. So some of them use it's called Dragon software, where they speak and it makes it text. And so eventually that's what I want to do. I want to start just talking into it. But I enjoy the writing part. So yeah, I know one lady on one of the podcasts, she said she goes every month she publishes a book. And because as an indie author, if that's your full-time job, 8 hours a day, me personally, I can write pretty easily 3 pages within an hour. If it's a really good hour, I can write like 5. So I can see how that's possible. If you do 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, bust out that book. And I handwrite, and then I type, and then I edit. So a lot of people just type, right? Let me see. You get 100% choice in everything, right? Traditional publishers, you have to ask for permission. If you want to discount books, you might have to ask for permission. Me, I can discount books if I want. If somebody says, I want to buy 50 books, but I don't want to pay full price, okay, well, I'll give you, 25% off, right? I can do that. I don't have to get permission. And then all your decisions, editing, cover art, all that stuff is your choice. Royalty rates are a lot better because you don't have the middleman of traditional publishing. And then another pro is anyone can do it. That's also a con, because anyone can do it. Like if I'm a two-time Christian Literary Awards nominee, right? But I still believe that a traditional publisher won't publish me because my niche is so small, right? Now I do write. I have a sci-fi, and I'm working on a fantasy that I'm publishing. My sci-fi is going to be the second book in the series I'm getting out this year. But with my Christian stuff, I don't think even a Christian publisher, I don't think would publish me because I'd be a risk. I'd be a big risk, right? So if you got the money to be able to get the editing and everything, anyone can do it. But that's also a con because anyone can do it, and if you have a terrible book, all you got to do is pay what's called vanity publishers to publish, right? Which is not a good idea. We'll get into that later. but cons. So some cons is nothing is free. You have to pay 100% everything. That's where Reedsy comes in. Of course, Reedsy takes like a 5% fee, which is, to me, it's worth it because I have a peace of mind. And if there's ever a contract dispute, you go through Reedsy, right, to figure that out. You get fewer sales. So traditional publishers, they're in the bookstores, which most of the books are sold digitally anyway. But you might get fewer sales. Again, potential for poorly written books. You pay them, basically. You pay everybody, right? No matter what it is. If it's counting the numbers of pages you have in your book, you got to pay somebody to do that unless you do it yourself, right? Most authors will tell you, don't, if you're not experienced in certain things like cover art, you probably shouldn't do that yourself because it won't be that great. So, and I can attest that because my current books, several of them have limited edition stickers on them because I did it myself. They're not terrible, but they're not awesome. And if you see the picture out there with me in my books, the ones that I actually got a professional do look so much better, right? So I can attest to that. I was cheap back then, and I didn't want to spend all that money. But,
lessons learned. That's all.
yeah, lessons learned. Kind of a big con for traditional author or indie authors is we don't get to be in the bookstores. Like I think I mentioned to you guys, my wife and I went up to the bookstore asking about how to get in the bookstore. They gave me a website to go to. I got an email back from them. I emailed them, hey, I so because I have a publishing business. CJ Korryn Books is a publishing, so I can go through as a publisher. And they replied back to me, unless you're this publisher, we won't put your books on the shelf, basically. And I was like, well, that stinks, right? But really, for most authors, it would just be, it's that vague sense of accomplishment to see your book on like Barnes and Noble, right? And let's be honest, not a lot of people go and shop for books these days compared to 20 years ago, right?
They do online.
Yeah, they do online. So if you're gonna go online, get your audio or your digital books done because that's almost no cost, right? After you're editing, there's no cost to print them. There's no cost to email them or mail them because it's all digital, right? Go to Kindle. And there's actually websites that you can hire. Now they do cost, but they will do the troubleshooting for you. So if you want to put on your own website, which I'm eventually going to do, I'm going to try to do that next summer, is have my digital books and my print books on my own personal website. And any troubleshooting, I'll just go through them, right? So they say, oh, I got a Kindle and it won't upload to my Kindle. I give them an email to go to this company and they'll do all the troubleshooting with them, right? So the last one is hybrid, and I don't suggest to do this, but this might be an option. If it's, I'll just explain it to you, and then you guys can decide for yourselves. I will probably always say go indie author. I'm hardcore indie author right now. Not to say if a traditional publisher comes to me and says we want to represent you, like, oh, let me see the contract.
Yeah.
Which,
Read the contract.
watch those videos that are on my website or links, because they will tell you all the shady stuff
Yep.
that traditional publishers try to get away with. So hybrid publishing, basically, what it is they act like a traditional publisher, but when you, upon publication, you have to buy an X number of books. So they'll do the cover art, they'll do the editing, they'll do maybe some advertising, but they say you have to buy 500 copies of your book. Or usually it's more like 1,000 copies. So if you have a book that's $7 in print, right? That's $7,000 you have to shell out when you publish your book, which is not like horrible, but it's, I
Well,
don't.
what's the reason for that?
Well, so if your book doesn't do well, they don't lose everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of like we think your book is decent. It may not be awesome, but we're gonna take a chance and publish you. But you need to buy this amount so we get at least some of our money back if it doesn't do well.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not sure about royalties and all that. I actually was going to go with hybrid publishing before I stumbled upon indie publishing. And as soon as I discovered indie publishing, I just tossed those other ideas away. But so some pros for this is it is professional. If it's a real hybrid company, it's professional, right? You wouldn't be able to tell the difference between traditional and hybrid. They do offer payment plans. They do everything for you, just like a traditional publisher. You do get to keep your say. Like you can keep some of your idea. And I don't think that they're like you need to do a new cover, right? If you already have a cover. They do provide physical copies on publication. Some cons is they may not actually be considered as traditional publishers in bookstores, right? Now we're not counting mom and pop bookstores like we haven't had any, downtown, but I'm talking like big Barnes and Nobles and whatever other bookstores they have, Books a Million, money, that's a big one. You got to purchase a minimum number of books, which is often more than most people can afford it. Now you want to look into hybrid publishing. Here's a couple things you want to look for, investigate when doing it. The quality of books that they publish. Okay, so go on their website, look at the books. They'll have a record of the books, like these are the authors that we sell. Here are their books. Look at those books. Go on Amazon and other websites, Barnes and Noble, and look at those books and their reviews. Right? Maybe buy a couple of those books and read them. See if you notice if they're just trash, then maybe that's not a good, it just might not be a good company to go with. Look at the reviews of both the publisher and the books wherever you find them. Look through those. Amazon's pretty good about having honest stuff because as an author, if you get caught buying reviews, then they disable your account straight up. So most indie authors won't chance that.
Well, how do they know? I mean,
I guess they have algorithms because from my understanding, when Amazon first started selling books, there was a lot of people, kind of like Instagram. They have you buy followers, and so like overnight you get dozens and dozens of one way that they verify is if you're a customer that actually buys stuff online, so you buy tennis shoes or jewelry, t-shirts, whatever, you're a verified customer. But I don't know exactly how they do that, but like the videos I tell you about, you hear stories about one guy said that like 500 reviews disappeared because they thought they were spam reviews and they deleted them. So
Wow.
yeah, so it's just stuff like that. So you want to be careful. Did depending on who you talk to, they'll say you should buy ISBNs or not, right? A lot of companies now, I know Amazon will provide ISBNs if you want to buy them, or just let them have ISBNs, but they have AISN, Amazon Identification Number. So what I do with my books, I will publish my digital book on Amazon and use AISN. I will not put an ISBN on it. But when I publish my digital book on Ingram Spark, I will uncheck the Amazon, distribute to Amazon. And I will put my ISBN on it. So that way there's not two of my same book on there, right? Because you can't use the same ISBN if you do it on Amazon, and if you, so basically, I guess it would confuse the system because it would be two different books. If I publish on Draft Digital and I try to publish the same ISBN on Ingram Spark, it won't let you because it's already registered, basically. But I personally, I like to buy ISBNs. I buy like 10 at a time. Mm-hmm. They have packages. You buy one for 100, 10 for what, like 200? You buy 50 for like 500, or no. Yeah, I think it was like 50 for 500, 100 for like 1,000. And that's, it's good. But with ISBNs, here's the deal. I eventually I have digital and I have print. Mm-hmm. I have a couple audiobooks. I also want to do a hardback print and comic book. So each version of that same book is a different ISBN. Yeah. Right? So 5 ISBNs for one book alone. Mm-hmm. And it's not that expensive, if you buy like 10 of them at a time. Mm-hmm. Don't quote me on that price though, please, because I don't remember. It might be cheaper than that, but I would love to buy 100. But you also have 10 years to use them, I believe. So, this is something dear and personal to my heart. And you don't have to do this, but I had a horrible experience. Always, always, always save your digital files. Yeah. I transitioned some of my stuff from flash drives to portable drives, but I have 4 places, 5 if you count. I have a huge 3 terabyte portable drive that I back up everything up a couple times a year, right? But I have a drive that I carry on with me all the time. It's almost never off my person unless I come home and I put it in my little same place I put my keys. It's my keys, and that thing will always be with me. Has all my storage stuff. I have a flash drive I keep at home, and I have a couple other drives. So when I save my edits, I type and I save, right? I'll save every couple pages. That way I save, A, B, C, D, E, F, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. If it's a novel, it's going to be like, say 157 or whatever. But with my short stories and serial novels that I write, it's usually like, 10 or 15 saves at most. But I do that because if, say, I'm saving my file on one drive, and for some reason that drive gets corrupted, or even that file gets corrupted, I have to start all over. So I just go back to the previous file, which might just be a few pages versus 10 pages, right? And then I do several drives, because if one drive gets corrupted, hopefully the other drives will get corrupted. Now, you still got the problem of what if the power shuts off and everything turns off? That can corrupt your file. My current serial novels that I do, I upload them to my Google Drive, just in case that. So I'm paranoid about this stuff, right? Because the backstory is, my first book, The Saint of Trinity Radio Station, my very first book that I got published. Mm-hmm. It's republished now, but I hired an editor, paid hundreds of dollars to get it edited. Got it published. I used a vanity publisher. Well, that's not their official name, but every author calls them vanity publishers. Basically, you pay them to do, you pay them to edit, I didn't pay them to edit because I had an editor. You pay them to do your book cover, all this stuff. I got all that stuff done pretty much, right? I don't think I got cover art, but they did the fonts. But I paid them. I did not pay them to edit. So they just posted my book and sent it, to print. So I got 20 of them sitting at home as, whatever, table warmers, whatever you want to call them. Keep your papers down,
Paperweight.
right? Because I just happened one day, I had sold about 20 or 30 of them, so, friends and family and stuff. And I happened to read one of my stories, and I saw the same name spelled 3 different ways. And at first, I was furious at my editor, like, you did not do it. And I was about to call her and get mad. Then I happened to go check my files, and I only had one file. At that time, I would erase the previous files, save room on my drives. But at that time, it was just one drive. And I realized I deleted my final edited draft. So fast forward like 5 years later, I finally get it edited, get the money to get it published again. And I'm like, well, you know what? I'm going to try this publisher because maybe that first publisher was just a shady Christian publisher. No, I did a different company. They did the same thing. I mean, you paid to edit. I didn't pay for them to edit it, but I don't think they did a great job editing it either.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, and that's one of the books that was nominated.
Yeah.
So it's more about the writing than it is necessarily the structure of the formatting, right? But I was like, okay, so there's 2 companies that you have to pay to publish it. Any author will tell you, don't ever pay anybody to publish your stuff. I mean, a publishing company. Yes, you got to pay editors and stuff, but if they claim to be a publishing company and they want you to pay money, don't go with it. So, like I said, I'm an indie author and I love Grammarly.com. That is a good editing service. You're shaking your head, but yep. And they actually give you why it's wrong. Now, it's computer generated, so more complex the sentences. Never replace a human editor if they're good.
Yeah.
Right. So and Reedsy.com I will never not promote Reedsy because they provided me with so many services. So Reedsy is great. Online websites.
Yeah.
You need to have, even if you're not planning on publishing your book for 5 years, create your website. Okay? There's a lot of websites. I like Wix just because Wix, when I looked into different websites, the few that I looked at, you had to buy them right away. Right? Wix, you can make an account, start creating your page, and if it takes you 2 months to create your page and publish it, you don't have to pay for that website until you publish it. Right? Other websites, you buy the website, you pay for it, starting the minute that you buy it. This one you don't actually buy. You create an account. And as far as I know, there's unlimited web. I have like 10 websites, one for each of my books right now. I have my author page. I have an email, a newsletter page. It's on there. I just put a PDF every month with my newsletter. I have my online business. I have all kinds of web pages, so I don't think there's even a limit.
Yeah.
Now you can get more stuff on there if you pay, but it's free. Now it'll also say Wix.com, blah blah blah, all the big old URL. You can pay, which I have 2 websites that I pay for the actual cjkorryn.com, cjkorrynbooks.com. So that's what shows up, but you have to pay for that every month, and it's not super. It's a few $100s every year. I said month, but it's every year, right? I like it. It might be a little more expensive than others, but I like it. It's easy and it's drag and drop. You don't have to have experience, right? Like back in the day, my dad, he was wanting to make me a web page, and he was coding it. I don't like to have to depend on somebody to hey, I want this added every month because now you just drag and drop. Great stuff. authors are rich. Okay, that is a big myth. Most writers don't earn much. I mean, even traditional publishers. You see those movies. One of my favorite movies, As Good as It Gets, right? The OCD author who's just writes all day and can do whatever he wants. That's not realistic for most. There are people like that. Stephen King, I'm sure, Dean Koontz, I'm sure they don't have to work another day in their life. They just have their books, right? But most authors, even J.K. Rowling, I've heard that she was very poor before she got rich with her books, right? Because she had written for years. Given the time, editing, marketing, all that stuff, sometimes we spend more money than we make. I know that's been the case with me for a lot of it, at least so far. The average book sells like maybe 50 to a couple hundred copies and it's dead. I think I'm past the average mark, so that's good.
Well behind it.
Yeah, so, but we love to write. You probably, this, if you're an author, you probably will write just for the fun of it. I mean, I wrote a research paper for the fun of it once. Yeah. So, but fiction is my passion, so we'll write to write. It would be nice to get paid for it. Myth 2, if you're a writer published in print by a large New York-based house, then you're making a lot of money, or at least you're living off your income. Again, like the same thing. It's you're not going to be able to live off your income. And here's a quick little math equation, right? So they say 5,000 is about the on the website that I got this from. 5,000 is about the average advance. But with that 5,000, let me see. And here's some specific percentages that I think you're asking about, royalty rates and all this. So this particular publication, author, page, info, wherever I got it, they use the example 5,000 advance, then it would pay the agent 15% of that. Then the website, which is 1,000, which, like I said, today you can cross that off because you can do it for cheaper than that now. Then you got your self-promotion, like conferences, promotional items, all that stuff. And then you got taxes. Like if you're not working,
Yeah.
right? If you're not working, you have to pay your own healthcare and taxes and medical, for you and your family, right? So that's just like no. And then of course your publisher gets your cut, and then you get your royalties, but not until that 5,000 is paid back to the publisher. So, and let's just say the example they gave is your paperback book sells at $6.99, right? Which is actually pretty cheap these days. And you get an 8% royalty, right? Versus the agent gets 15%, right? With that $6.99, you get 55 cents per book. At 55 cents, you'll need to sell 9,000 copies of your book before you start making more money because you have that $5,000 advance. So yeah, of course, ebooks are a lot different than that.
How is it considered an advance if you don't even get, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's basically they pay you before they sell the books.
Like you said, you don't get that money until.
No. So how it is, I'm a publisher, I tell you, I'm gonna cut you a $5,000 check, you give me the rights to your book, right? That's your check. You basically owe me $5,000, but I'm not gonna charge you, I'm gonna wait until your book sales reach that $5,000, then I'll start paying you more. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Pay
it's,
back first.
pay us back first and then we'll start paying you back. We're paying you for what you sell. Yeah, then the last myth in traditional publishing is all you need is one book to make it big. Right? That is a load of malarkey. Even the most known authors, I believe like J.K. Rowling had like 4 or 5 of her books already written of just Harry Potter before the first one got big enough for her to get a movie deal, right? It's usually not the case. Most of the time, it's a slow climb. And like I said, for me, I know that it'll be a while before I am able to pay my bills with my writing. So if you can write, you can be a successful published, self-published author. That's not really true. It takes more than just knowing how to put words together to make a good book. I remember my first story ever. I let my sister-in-law read it to her kids. She says it's a good kid's book, but I think of that, oh man, I'm so glad I never showed anybody this book. It is the silliest story you could ever imagine. Not really, but I think it would be a great comic play, right? Sci-fi comic play. It would be hilarious, right? So cliche, so over the top, but you got to know the fundamentals of writing. You got to be, or at least pay an editor a lot of money to fix all your problems, right? 2, it's all about the self-published book. An author's website and blog is not necessary. No, you need a website, right? This is one thing that I wish I had learned before I had published my first couple of books, because you got to get a website. Like I said, even if you're going to wait 5 years to publish it, get that the following, and then give them snippets of your book, like a couple pages. Like, oh, here's this cool scene that I wrote, a month ago, right? Whet their appetite for your book. Number 3, self-publishing is hard because you have to do all the promotion of your book yourself. I'm speaking too fast and slurring my words. Traditional publishers and authors, publishers make authors still do their own social media stuff, right? So it's not any different. Number 4, self-published books aren't sold in traditional bookstores, making it difficult to become a bestseller. That's not true. Yes, you will not be a bestseller in the bookstore, but if you go on Amazon, there are books on Amazon that are only digital books, or at least the digital copies are bestsellers, right? So we're in the digital age, so that really doesn't, the hard and softback books are a completely different beast than online. Readers don't like to read self-published books. Again, that's not true. Mm-hmm. There are books that you would not even know were self-published, right? If they're done well. And I've read some traditionally published books that were had a lot of errors in them, right? It's human error. There's always going to be 1 or 2 in a novel. It's human error. It's inevitable. But it doesn't mean they're going to be bad books, right? Mm-hmm. Traditional authors, number 6, traditional authors make more money than self-published authors. True, they get bigger royalties, but they don't sell as many books sometimes. Number 7, self-publishing is a lottery, and you have to get lucky. Again, that's not true. Everybody thinks that because of just off the top of my head. When I wrote this example, I put in examples. So 50 Shades of Grey, I think that was one book that almost became popular overnight. Seems like Harry Potter, of course, and Twilight. It wasn't overnight. It just seemed like it was overnight to us. But they had been working on that and writing more and more, right? For years. Success as a writer means you got to keep writing and keep publishing. Most don't get lucky. Most work at it. A lot of authors will tell you that but you make more money writing books in a series versus standalone. So I have a couple standalones and I have a couple series books. Hey guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that workshop. And if you've already checked out the resources on my webpage, then I hope you really enjoyed those. And I hope it helps you to further your author career. And if you haven't checked them out, I encourage you to check all those resources out. Again, you can just go to the Publishing Helps tab on my website. I hope you guys enjoyed the workshop, and I will talk to you guys later. Thanks again.